Behind the sun, something shone. A small light, almost swallowed by the glare of our star, appeared in the images from the LASCO probe of NASA's Solar and Heliospheric Observatory. And there he was again. The three-eye atlas, the interstellar visitor, reappearing after weeks of silence, emerging amid the most intense brightness of the solar system. These new images, released in the last few hours, ignited a spark of debates and theories all over the internet. Some say it changed shape, others swear that NASA would have erased frames, and there are those who believe that the temporary disappearance of the Solar Dynamics Observatory was no coincidence. There were even those who linked global internet outages to possible activity of the three-eye atlas. But what is true in all this? What do these images really show? And why has the reappearance of this object right now, during the solar conjunction, caused so much confusion online? Today, we are going to cross the brightness of the sun and enter the heart of this mystery. We are going to understand what the probes saw, what NASA confirmed, and what is pure illusion created by the physics of light. You will discover why the three-eye atlas seems to disappear and reappear, and what lies behind these distortions that so much feed the collective imagination. And of course, we are going to talk about the line between legitimate curiosity and the sensationalism that turns real data into improbable stories. Get ready, because this episode connects facts, hypotheses, and new images of the most enigmatic object in modern space. And by the end, you will understand what is myth, what is scientific data, and what still remains unexplained. But before diving into this complete analysis, take the opportunity and subscribe here to the channel, share this video, and leave a like. Because today, we go beyond the headlines and enter the heart of the mystery. When the new images of the three-eye atlas were captured by the LASCO probe, what seemed to be just a technical record turned into fuel for a storm of theories. A point of light, small, flickering, appearing on the edge of the sun, almost lost amid the noise of the particles. That was enough for hundreds of videos to start circulating. In a few minutes, the object was being enlarged, analyzed frame by frame, pixel by pixel. Some claimed to see metallic outlines. Others said they perceived changes of trajectory. And soon the boldest allegations arose, that the three-eye atlas would be performing an active maneuver, deviating from the route predicted by NASA. But do these images really show that? Or are we seeing what we want to see? The LASCO Observatory, coupled to the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory mission, has a simple and precise purpose: to observe the sun. But not directly. It uses a disk to block the star's blinding light, allowing to see what moves around it: the solar corona, the mass ejections, and sometimes unexpected visitors. But this is a visually extreme environment. Charged particles, intense radiation, electronic interferences, all this creates bizarre optical effects, flashes, luminous streaks, distortions that cut across the field of view without warning. These phenomena are known by scientists. They are the direct result of the bombardment of energetic particles on the sensors. Vertical lines, tremors, colored noise. None of this is a mystery. It is only the universe, with all its force leaving marks on human cameras. But outside the laboratories, these same images gain another meaning. When the light point of the three-eye atlas disappears for an instant, someone says, "They are censoring it." When the brightness increases, another theory arises. It blinked. And thus, each variation of light becomes fuel for new interpretations. What few realize is that the brightness of the three-eye atlas does not change on its own. It is the probe's own system that automatically adjusts the exposure, reducing the capture when there is more solar radiation and increasing it when the sun calms down. This cycle creates a perfect illusion. The object seems to pulse, appear, and disappear, as if it were blinking at us from the other side of the sun. And the more the images are enlarged, the more the deception grows. When surpassing the limit of resolution, the sensor begins to invent geometric shapes. Small squares, lines, shadows that the human eye tries to transform into something solid. But they are only pixels trying to represent nothingness. Even so, the fascination persists. Because when the human gaze meets the unknown, it tries to make sense. It is an instinct. And that is why the three-eye atlas awakens so much emotion, because it is on the limit between what we can see and what we can only imagine. For weeks, while the three-eye atlas was hidden behind the sun, the silence of the probes became the stage of the theories. The absence of data became argument, the noise became message, and each person saw something different. Reflections, signals, coded messages, even metallic shapes hidden in the brightness. But the truth is simple and even poetic. The comet was only passing behind the sun. No deviation, no maneuver, no impossible leap. Only an icy body, reflecting light and fighting against the heat of the most powerful star in the system. Even so, the mystery grew, because the absence of answers always creates space for imagination. And imagination runs faster than light. While the telescopes waited for the 3I Atlas to reappear on the other side, social networks were already turning it into legend. It was the comet that blinked, the visitor that disappeared and returned, the possible messenger from another stellar system. But what really happened was not a miracle. It was pure physics. Light, angle, interference, and a touch of human expectation. And it is here that the mystery begins to change shape. Because when brightness gets confused with noise, the limit between reality and interpretation dissolves. And it is at this exact point that the modern myths of space are born. The 3I Atlas was about to reappear, and what came next would be even more surprising. Not a revelation, but a distortion that would become a world headline. It was around October 21st that the rumor began to take shape. A text published in international forums claimed that the 3I Atlas had gotten ahead of the position predicted by NASA. According to that publication, the object would be about 15 arc minutes ahead of the expected trajectory, which would amount to more than 1 million kilometers. For the lay public, that sounded like proof of an artificial acceleration. But for those who understand the delicacy of orbital dynamics, the number simply made no sense. And there was an even more curious detail. The supposed deviation would have been observed at the exact moment when the 3I Atlas was invisible, completely hidden by the brightness of the sun. In other words, the claim that it had changed course was based on data that did not exist. It was a calculation made on mathematical extrapolations, not on new measurements. But as happens in times of instant information, the rumor traveled faster than any comet. Influencers, channels, and blogs began to repeat the same storyline. Deviation confirmed. Active maneuver detected. Object under intelligent control. Few took the trouble to check the essential. There was no new update of official ephemerides, neither by NASA nor by the European Space Agency. The brightness of the 3I Atlas had indeed decreased about 26%, but that was perfectly compatible with the behavior of a comet moving away from direct sunlight. The ice evaporates, the jets change, the brightness falls. None of this indicates propulsion, only thermophysics, simple and predictable. The scientists consulted were unanimous. No evidence of active maneuver. If there had been a deviation of 1 million kilometers, the automatic tracking systems of the Minor Planet Center would have detected it in seconds. But nothing happened. Even so, the story gained a life of its own. Videos began to appear with distorted graphs, comparing incorrect positions and simulating impossible accelerations. Some even overlaid noise trails from LASCO images, presenting them as if they were thrust traces. And the public, seeing all that wrapped in technical language, naturally split between skepticism and fascination. But there is a simple, and almost ironic, explanation for all this. During solar conjunction, no telescope on Earth can observe the 3I Atlas. The only available sources are predictive simulations based on gravity and time. If someone misadjusts these simulations, the result is an illusory displacement, a difference between the personal calculation and the official data. And that is how it all began, a mistaken interpretation, treated as discovery. The active maneuver hypothesis was born from an extrapolation error, but the internet turned it into certainty. With each share, the rumor gained new details, new proofs, new edited images. In a few hours, what was doubt became truth for thousands of people. The most interesting thing is that this episode reveals something much greater than the 3I Atlas itself. It shows how collective curiosity and the desire for extraordinary explanations can distort even the simplest data. While the telescopes remained silent, human imagination filled the void, creating stories, fitting together pieces that were never there. And it is in this space between what we know and what we want to believe that the modern myths of space are born. The 3I Atlas, hidden behind the sun, had become a blank canvas, and each one projected there their own mystery. But the comet was about to return. And when it reappeared, slowly emerging from the solar edge, it brought with it a new enigma, not of movement, but of composition. When the 3I Atlas finally emerged from the solar edge, its brightness seemed different. It was no longer the same intense and vibrant point seen months before. Now its light was softer, surrounded by a diffuse haze that expanded rapidly. Astronomers interpreted this as a sign of increased activity, a direct result of the intense heating suffered during its passage through perihelion at the end of October. Part of the surface had sublimated, releasing jets of carbon dioxide and small amounts of water. Nothing abnormal, but visually impressive. Still, there was something different. Some astronomers noticed that the tail of the 3I Atlas had changed direction. In the records of July and August, it pointed toward the sun, what we call the anti-tail. Now in November, it had reversed, forming a traditional tail extending away from the star. It was a transition predicted by cometary physics, confirmed by telescopes in the Canary Islands and by the Keck Observatory in Hawaii. But to the lay public, it seemed almost miraculous, a comet that turned the other way around. This simple change of perspective rekindled the debate. Some again claimed that the inversion was a sign of control. Others cited curious coincidences, such as the Halloween holiday and the posts of astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who spoke about the theoretical possibility of an interstellar object performing a gravitational maneuver near the sun. But Loeb himself, in recent interviews, made it clear it was only a conceptual hypothesis, not a statement. Up to that point, all observational data remained within expectations. The brightness, position, and velocity of the 3I Atlas were exactly where they should be. No jumps, no anomalous acceleration. What really surprised scientists came next. While observatories adjusted their instruments for new measurements, the spectrometers began to reveal something unprecedented. The 3I Atlas possessed a chemical signature different from any other comet ever observed. The instruments of the Keck telescope and the James Webb Space Telescope detected intense emissions of nickel and cyanide, but almost no presence of iron. This detail, apparently technical, is extraordinary. In practically all known comets, iron and nickel appear together in a predictable ratio. In the case of the 3I Atlas, the iron simply was not there. The absence of this element is so unusual that outside nature, only nickel alloys produced in controlled industrial processes exhibit this kind of composition. Avi Loeb commented that this anomaly deserves special attention, as it may indicate physicochemical processes not yet understood, or something that, until now, we believed impossible to occur naturally. Other researchers, however, suggested more cautious explanations. The extreme heat of perihelion could have selectively vaporized the iron, leaving the nickel in evidence. Or perhaps the 3I Atlas was formed in an interstellar region rich in that metal, in an environment very different from where the comets of our system were born. Even so, the mystery deepened when data showed that only 4% of the total mass of the 3I Atlas is composed of water. For a comet, that is little. Very little. About 87% is carbon dioxide, and another 9% carbon monoxide, a composition that makes it more similar to an active rocky body than to a conventional comet. This chemical signature makes the 3I Atlas seem, at the same time, familiar and completely alien. In addition, the gas emissions presented an unusual pattern. A central concentrated jet of nickel surrounded by a more diffuse halo of cyanide. The images showed the nickel remaining close to the nucleus, while the cyanide dispersed around, forming a double plume. It was a rare, almost perfect symmetry. This configuration led some independent researchers to propose something bold. What if the nickel were being produced by a process similar to the carbonyl reaction, used on Earth to purify metals? That would require very specific conditions of temperature and pressure, unlikely, but not impossible in the extreme environment of an interstellar body. Other, more conservative scientists responded that it is not necessary to resort to artificial processes to explain the phenomenon. Prolonged exposure to interstellar radiation over millions of years could alter the surface of an icy body, creating an unusual chemistry. In other words, the 3I Atlas may be a cosmic archive, a preserved fragment of a stellar system that no longer exists. But what intrigues researchers is the sum of all these factors. An object with stable behavior, atypical composition, directed jets, and a tail that changed direction. Individually, each characteristic would be explainable. Together, they form a sequence of coincidences too improbable to be ignored. For that reason, the Three-Eye Atlas remains on the watch list of all active observatories. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity. Because the cosmos rarely repeats patterns without reason. When something strays from what is expected, perhaps it is trying to tell us something new, even if in silence, whispering mystery into the void. And that is exactly what happened when unexpected news reached the scientific community. The Three-Eye Atlas had just been included for the first time in history in an official campaign of the International Asteroid Warning Network under the coordination of the UN. The inclusion of the Three-Eye Atlas in the UN's international campaign marked a historic moment. Never before had a body coming from outside the solar system been observed under the Planetary Defense Protocol. This time, the target was not a threat, but a visitor. A cosmic messenger crossing the space between the stars. The announcement was made on October 21, 2025, during the object's solar conjunction, precisely the period when it was hidden behind the sun. The initiative, supported by the United Nations, symbolized a turning point in the way humanity faces the unknown. The official statement said, "Comets present unique challenges for precise astrometric measurements." The goal of the campaign is to develop methods to improve the observation and analysis of atypical comets, starting with Three-Eye Atlas. Between November 2025 and January 2026, observatories from various continents will participate in a coordinated operation, exchanging data in real time to measure with unprecedented precision the trajectory and activity of this interstellar visitor. Before that, an international workshop was scheduled for early November, bringing together astronomers and engineers from space agencies around the world. The motivation goes far beyond scientific curiosity. As the Minor Planet Center highlighted, comets are unpredictable bodies. They change in brightness, alter the direction of their tails, and sometimes fragment without warning. With Three-Eye Atlas, the challenge is even greater. An object coming from interstellar space with anomalous chemical composition and a history of coincidences that defy our models. Among the specialists involved is Avi Loeb himself, who presented to the United Nations a report in partnership with researchers Homer Eldad and Gerson Tenenbaum. In that document, they argue that objects like Three-Eye Atlas should be monitored collaboratively, not only out of scientific curiosity, but as an existential precaution. The idea is simple. Even if the chances of an artificial origin are minimal, the potential impact of being right is too great to ignore. This is the concept of a black swan event. Improbable, but with incalculable consequences. During the coming months, a global network of telescopes will look for any sign of change, fragmentations, deviations, new emissions, or the appearance of smaller objects near the main path. Behind the scenes, monitoring centers in Europe, the United States, and Asia calibrate sensors, test tracking software, and adjust antennas. Every point of light will be measured, every brightness variation analyzed with millimetric attention. But contrary to what one might imagine, there is no fear. The tone of the campaign is one of cooperation and fascination. In the face of something that transcends borders and ideologies, the Three-Eye Atlas inspired a rare sense of global unity. It is as if, for an instant, humanity remembered that, before any difference, we share the same sky. After months of theories, analyses, and speculations, the Three-Eye Atlas now moves away from the sun. It survived the extreme heat, the solar ejections, and the scrutiny of thousands of telescopes. Behind it, it leaves a trail of dust and questions. The scientific world breathes, not in relief, but in admiration. Even after so much effort, we still do not have all the answers. The most recent images show the Three-Eye Atlas dimming as it moves toward the borders of the solar system. Its trajectory is predictable, but the fascination it caused is not. Few objects in the sky have managed to unite so much attention from the scientific community and social networks. Perhaps that is precisely what makes it unique. A solitary body, coming from interstellar space, capable of awakening the same kind of emotion that for centuries inspired myths and religions. Only now, before high-resolution cameras and supercomputers. During its passage, the Three-Eye Atlas showed us many faces, an anti-tale that became a tale, a brightness that oscillated between the common and the inexplicable, a chemistry that defies our models, and finally, the global mobilization of scientists and observatories trying to decipher a visitor that does not even intend to stay. The boldest theories spoke of interstellar probes, propulsion maneuvers, and intelligent behavior. But in the end, what we have is something even deeper. A natural enigma that forces us to look up and admit how much we still ignore. There are no clear signs of technology. There are no indications of control. But there is also no monotony. The Three-Eye Atlas is perhaps the most elegant reminder that the boundary between the common and the extraordinary is only a matter of perspective, because it is precisely through anomalies that science advances. Each strange datum, each curve outside the prediction, is an open door to the unknown. And when we look at the Three-Eye Atlas, we are not only studying a celestial body, we are studying ourselves, the curiosity that moves us, the will to understand, to question, to imagine. The Three-Eye Atlas is departing, but what it leaves behind is greater than its passage. It reminds us that space still holds secrets that do not fit into equations, and that perhaps the true sign of intelligence is not out there, but here, in our capacity to question everything. While it moves silently toward the darkness between the stars, humanity watches it for the last time, with the same mixture of doubt, admiration, and awe that has always made us look at the sky. Because the universe still has much to say, and the next mystery may already be on its way. But this is only one of the many stories forgotten at the frontiers of time. If you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel Echoes of the Last Era to hear more tales of lost worlds, forbidden loves, and secrets hidden among the stars. Leave a like, share, and until the next echo.